chomping.
Hello, and welcome to another fine casual mode episode of
Casually
Midlife.
crafted.
Casually crafted, none of that artisanal bullshit. We're here for maximum comfort, and by we, I mean me. Unfortunately, you have to sit like this. But who's had back surgery? Raise your hand. So there we go.
I'm too lucky for that.
Exactly. You're far too lucky for that. Okay, so this is an episode requested by Uncle Bob here. Why don't you address the cam? What are we talking about today?
Okay, so we are talking, and I'm very excited about this. We're talking about Helldivers 2 today. I have wanted to do this episode for about 3 months.
Mm-hmm. That's not an exaggeration.
The
That's
game
true.
came out in early February. I've been looking forward to it. If you go far enough back into the archives of our show, we did a live broadcast or a live watch or whatever of
the Sony
of the announcement of the game.
Back when video games were exciting to do that with.
Yeah. And I was super looking forward to it. I loved the first game, and then I was looking forward to the second game coming out. Then when I saw that it was going to have crossplay, that made me more excited. Several of my gaming friends were also going to play it, so we were all going to play it together. And then, so we just did an episode. Everybody go watch our episode on hype. And a lot of what we talk about in that episode or episodes is about how you're almost always disappointed by hype. Mm-hmm. Well, Helldivers is one of the counter examples where the game was hyped, I was hyped for it, and then it comes out.
I bore witness to your visual excitement of Helldivers 2. You played the original one.
Yeah.
I was only aware of the original one. I believe I believe it was a PS Plus free for everyone game when it first came out. And I know I downloaded it because it's in my game list, but I just never got around to playing it ever, which is also the case with Helldivers 2. I'm too busy terrorizing neighbors and playing really weird, subversive noir games, or being a creep with a camera.
Your schedule is full, no doubt, with all those activities.
Booked up. And by that I mean, to be clear, a virtual creep with a camera. Not an in-world creep with the camera.
I don't know if that's clear, but all right.
Well, I've done all I can do at this point.
The words are out there.
Yeah, I've done the heavy lifting here.
All right, so super excited for the game, and then the game comes out, and it absolutely exceeds my expectations. Mm-hmm. And I started playing it obsessively, and I've played it obsessively basically since then, and we're going to talk about it, but the game's been out for 3 months, and I have close to 200 hours into it. I've put more hours into this now at this point than Baldur's Gate 3, which was my big game last year.
Yeah.
So that's how much I like this game. So we can talk about why, we can talk about all the rest of it, but the game is spectacular, and everybody out there, if you have friends and you have a PlayStation or a PC, you should buy the game and play it because it really is incredible. So with that, should I just start talking more?
Well, I think before we get into the positives, let's just front load this with the negative stuff and talk about the current events when it comes to the account stuff.
We're going to go in reverse chronology.
Exactly.
Chronological
the reason why is I think we can get rid of the sour note stuff, and then for the rest of this episode you can just gush and sell the game.
No problem.
Because and so in the current state of things, you need to elucidate me on this a little bit better. Sure. But from what I know is that initially Sony tried to make it so that everyone who plays this game on PC needed to sign up for PSN.
Correct.
Then that backfired on them in the way that it always does with companies, in that now the game was review bombed, which if you don't know what that is, and I'm speaking only to the people who are 50, which I see the analytics. The show is called Midlife Krisis. They are there. Review bombing is this concept, and it's one of several things that I take umbrage when it comes to the whole idea of reviewing shit. But people who don't like something for whatever reason has nothing to do with the quality of the game. It's just this is how people protest. They sit there and give negative reviews of a game that is generally given nothing but positive criticism in a way to voice their opinion on things.
We used to call it slacktivism, except it's a slightly more involved than that, since you are sort of like leaving a review. But that's absolutely what they did. I have many thoughts on this, but that is the general gist.
We will come back to this topic. We did an episode about video game criticism where we only touched on review bombing and all that stuff.
Right.
But that we're going to come back to that because it's something I think you and I we definitely share the same opinion, and that it's fucking entitled bullshit, and it is one of many things that I think is gross about this community fandom that we are a part of.
So as it relates specifically to Helldivers, exactly what you said is what happened. Sony demanded, while Helldivers was being developed, and Sony's the publisher, Arrowhead Studios is the developer, Sony said, you guys have to make it so that even PC players have to have a PSN account. Now, years ago, you and I had a conversation, I'm not sure if you remember this, but where the Epic Game Store was just coming out, and you asked me why there was all this annoyance amongst gamers about having to create an Epic Game Store account to play certain Epic games. And we talked about, like, before that, the EA Origin Store and all that. And I said, sort of half tongue-in-cheek, but half seriously, PC gamers don't like signing up for things.
Yeah.
We like everything to be with just Steam. That's the go-to shop. And now, all these years later, with all the Fortnite money and all the rest of it, Epic Games has not been able to get their foot in the door, really, into the PC space. They've given away Grand Theft Auto 5. They've given deals away. They've done everything that they can to get...
I signed up to get the Samurai Showdown collection.
And everybody does that, and then they go back to Steam to actually give money for things. So it's just a well-known part of the PC gamer experience that we're here, we have Steam, we've had it for 20 years, that's all we need, don't ask us to sign up for anything else. So already from day one, it would have been problematic to say you have to sign up for something else. And there was a number of other companies like Rockstar, and like that are sort of forcing that on you.
Yeah.
Okay, but if your game is Red Dead Redemption 2, it's like people will sign up for a free account if you're forcing them to go ahead and do that. They might grumble, but if you tell them that at the beginning, you cannot play this game unless you sign up for a Rockstar account.
If you know ahead of time.
Go ahead and do it. What happened, though, in this particular case with Helldivers 2, huge kerfluffle. First, when the game launched, it was immediately way bigger than anybody thought that it would.
To the point where servers were constantly going down.
And so to fix that issue, Sony and Arrowhead agreed we're going to suspend the obligation of linking your PSN account to the game. So you didn't have to do that. Now it's 3 months later, and they're like, okay, we got a handle on the server thing. So now we're going to undo the laxed requirement for the PSN, and we're going to actually make you have to sign up for PSN again. So right away, this annoys people. I've been playing the game for 3 months. I don't have a PSN account. Now you're going to make me sign up for a PSN account to continue to play the game.
Yes.
Now, probably that would have created some Reddit threads, but people would have gotten over it.
Yes.
However, the bigger controversy by far is that Sony, they're going to make you sign up for PSN accounts in countries where you're not allowed to sign up for a PSN account.
Yeah, I read a little bit about this.
So this happens to be about 177 out of the 205 countries on Earth, something like that, don't have the ability to sign up for a PSN account, allegedly. Now, there's a part of this where the gamers are being a little whiny, and I'm going to plant my flag on this in just a second. But let's just talk about the abstract. So if you live in Bahrain and there's no PSN there, and you can't sign up for a PSN account, but you paid for the game back in February because you're allowed to buy it there, then how are you going to play the game anymore? You can't sign up for a PSN account, but you already have the game.
And to be clear, what was being requested was if you don't sign up for a PSN account, you aren't playing the game online.
That's correct.
Okay.
You're not playing the game at all because you can only play the game online.
Got it. Oh, so there's no single player component.
No.
Well, I don't need to ask that question down the road.
Right. So a big part of the controversy and why it rose up the way that it did is because it was the ultimate bait and switch. You're telling people, like, thanks for playing our game, but and paying for our game, but you're not going to be able to play it unless you sign up for a PSN account. Yep. And by the way, those of you who live in those 177 countries that don't have the ability to sign up for a PSN account, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And so that created a huge, and obviously that is a major, major injustice. And then people started requesting refunds on Steam.
Bait and switch is the right term for sure. That's exactly what this is.
And so Sony then immediately backed down. They said, actually, okay, stop requesting refunds. We're not going to implement this patch, and you're not going to have to link your PSN account to the game going forward. Okay, so that mostly ended the controversy. That was about a week ago. Now, there are several addendums. Okay, can I add these addendums to this?
Yeah, and after these addendums, I have a couple things to say about PSN and Steam and all that stuff, but go ahead and addend away.
Okay, so the first addendum is people are talking about like, well, Sony only backed off after people started requesting refunds from Steam. I'm not sure if that's actually true. They made the announcement on a Thursday, and then we went to the weekend, and it kept like building the pushback, and then Sunday night, Sony backtrack. So it only took them about 72 hours to go from announcement to backtrack.
Well, Nick, that to me suggests possibly is like you have person A, whoever they are, has this cockamamie bad idea. And then person B realizes that person A made this really terrible idea and then immediately said, we're not doing that at all. That's a terrible idea. And then stepped in.
Yes. Well, and I mean, but there's also a weekend in between, so it's like people aren't really in the office while a lot of this controversy was happening. And then making matters sort of worse is that the developer was really caught in the middle because Arrowhead Studios was just like, look, we just wanted to suspend the account linking requirement so we could get our servers in order, but we don't really care if you link your PSN account or not. That's Sony's deal.
Yeah.
They're publishing the game, so they told us it's got to be in there, but we don't really give a shit if you do it or not.
We've made our money.
Totally.
Yeah.
So Arrowhead Studios was like, yeah, we're sorry that Sony is bizarrely selling this game in a whole bunch of countries that they don't offer PSN access to.
That's really weird.
That's really weird. And now they're basically going to turn off access. And then one of the poor Arrowhead community managers was like, yeah, you guys should just keep leaving bad reviews of the game, and that's going to help pressure Sony to actually...
Oh, so they encouraged the review bombing.
And that community manager is no longer working at Arrowhead. So that lasted about 48 hours.
Yeah.
So...
that's so cool. Right. I got my job because I did review bombing, and then I said we should do it, and now I'm on the bread line.
Okay, so and when that person left, they're like, no regrets. So whatever.
Fair enough.
Okay, so my first light pushback against the gamers is like, it's like, calm down about Sony only changed their position when it started affecting their bottom line, because the controversy didn't really exist long enough for them to react to it, because it was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, so aside from the fact of the bait and switch argument, which is a very clear cut, I'm not like defending it at all.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Sony had to do something about that. But the gaming community is making the secondary argument where they're saying, well, even if you live in a country that does have PSN, maybe I don't want to sign up for PSN because Sony's been hacked so many damn times. My personal information is going to go to Sony, and then, who knows what happens with it. I find that to be personally incredibly disingenuous. I find it hard to believe that you would not sign up for a PSN account to play Helldivers when you could originally buy Helldivers because you were worried about your data getting stolen. In a way that where your position would have changed. Let me say it more specifically. Imagine it's February and Helldivers 2 is coming out, and you're being told out to sign up for a PSN account, and then you're like, oh, I am not going to play this game if they're going to make me sign up for a PSN account because Sony gets hacked all the time. I'm worried about my data. So imagine having that position, okay?
Yeah.
But then they tell you on day 2, actually they're suspending the requirement to sign up for the PSN account. And then you're like, oh, so I don't have to worry about my information getting hacked? Okay, great. I will go ahead and give money to play Helldivers, I'll go ahead and play now. And then 3 months later, they sort of rescind that, and you're like, wait a second, guys. I would have never bought this game if I thought that I had to sign up for a PSN account. I only chose to buy it because you told me I wasn't going to have to do that. That did not happen. It did not happen, period. What happened was people were just annoyed that they have to spend the 2 minutes to create the account.
Yes,
This is the answer. They don't want to do that. But rather than just say, you know what, it's going to take me like 2 minutes of my life to sign up for this account, I really don't want to do that because that's a really dumb reason to not play a really great game. Instead, they come up with what plausibly is a good reason. Sony gets hacked all the time and I'm worried about my information giving it. In a vacuum, that sounds like it's a good reason. In actuality, though, and I'm speaking for all gamers right now.
Preach, testify.
You're lying if you're saying that is the reason that you're against creating a PSN account. You out there, you're lying about that because that's not really the reason. Nobody doesn't make a Steam account or a PSN account to play this game on that reason. They just do it because they're not. Okay, so that's my complaint against gamers. So it's really sort of two things. So the controversy has largely subsided, except that, and this is the last addendum, and then you can do your thing. Sony actually they have removed the ability to buy the game in those 177 countries, which is probably what they should have done to begin with. It's like if you can't sign up for a PSN account in that country, you shouldn't be able to buy the game in that country.
Sure.
So, and what has often happened is that the people who live in those countries just lie and say like, I live in 123 Main Street.
So easy to do.
Right. Yeah. And then you just get your PSN account. This is another reason why it's a little disingenuous, like all the people complain. I'm not trying to speak out of both sides of my mouth, but I am saying it is a bait and switch. Okay, we agree it's a bait and switch. You can't say, you're going to have to create a PSN account even in a country where you can't do that. However, there are plenty of people in country X that doesn't have access to a PSN account who have created accounts in places that do have PSN accounts that could have just played with those accounts. And Sony can't come out and say that because then they would be advocating for breaking their own TOS. But it's just sort of an accepted behavior that people just sort of go along with.
Not unlike emulation.
And that's right. It's a really, really good point. And Sony has tolerated it because here's the other part of it. So now I'm speaking for myself. I'm speculating, but this is so true. Jesus Christ, we haven't gotten to the game yet, but I'm so into this. The reason Sony doesn't have PSN set up in those accounts is because you'd have to create all this infrastructure to support it.
You'd
have to have like live service agents to help people deal with refunds, and you might have to rent out office space somewhere in whatever language of whatever small country, and you don't even have really a big enough footprint. It's so much easier to just tolerate people creating accounts with American addresses. And then if those people have problems, it's like, hey, what are you complaining to us for? Our service isn't even available in your country. We can't give you support. So that's why Sony doesn't set up the infrastructure in those places, but they tolerate people creating accounts anyway from those places using fake addresses.
So I import a lot of video games. I buy a lot of stuff from PlayAsia.com, and there's tons and tons of physical release games that come out there that don't come out here physically, or games that just don't come out, period. And in order to buy those games, especially when you buy something that is like like the Fatal Frame series, that you buy PS4 games, but then that entitles you to a free PS5 upgrade, and the only way to get that upgrade is to make a Hong Kong account. Super easy to do. You just do it, and it's exactly what you're talking about. But anyone who's into importing video games knows this. And like on my Switch, I have a Japanese account. On my PS5, I have a Japanese and a Hong Kong account. Like, this is just, if you're into importing video games, playing imports, whatever, like, this is what you do.
And in my universe, the Blizzard universe, they've released on mobile games sometimes, and they'll soft launch in some random country, and then I'll borrow one of my kids' iPhones and change my wife's address to be somewhere in Vietnam or whatever country they soft launched in, so that I can actually access the game. So it's like, I'm familiar with this system too, and it's just tolerated. It's just known and tolerated. Now, if you're Sony, again, you cannot come out and tell all these people like, go ahead, if you live in whatever country, create an address using this other...
Well, it's basically saying, like, our EULA doesn't matter, even though we all know
that's exactly
that
right.
It doesn't matter.
You're violating your own terms of service. So anyway, so a lot of the controversies, you got kind of much ado about nothing. But that being said, at the end of all of it, it is an F-up, and if you're Sony, you cannot sell the game in a country that doesn't allow PSN access. So what does Sony do? Well, they just prevent you from being able to buy the game in those countries. And now gamers are complaining about that. They're like, hey, you can't buy Helldivers 2 in these countries anymore. And it's like, well, yeah, Sony's going to require you to have a PSN account. And if you can't set up a PSN account in that country, you can't buy the game. That makes sense to me. Selling the game in a country and then not allowing a PSN account, that does not make sense to me. But anyway, that is the controversy. It's largely subsided, but there is still this sort of undercurrent of frustration that
wrongdoing has occurred.
Yes, yeah. And it is the known future. Like Ghost of Tsushima is coming out soon on PC, and you're going to have a PSN account with that. And what that means to me is either A, Sony's going to allow PSN accounts to be created in 177 countries that aren't allowed now, or more likely B, that game is not going to be sold in those countries, and you're going to go back to people in those countries having to sort of use VPNs and things like that to make it look like they're buying them from America.
Right.
And that's just the way of the world. And that's how Sony's going to be. And that's fine. And it's like, if you don't like it, fine, you can complain to Sony about it. But it's not unethical, bordering on illegal, the way that letting people buy the game and then changing the terms 3 months after the fact to make them to make it unplayable for them, to make it that way. So the controversy it's a legitimate controversy, but as gamers often do, and again, I'm speaking on behalf of everyone, on all of you.
Me too.
Yeah. They overdid it with the complaining, and it's a sort of a cacophony of loud, particularly social media stuff, where it's like the majority of players just like the game, but there's a loud enough minority still complaining about things where it's just like, you guys are just complaining about everything. Everything has been fixed now. It's fine. The controversy's fine, and Sony's policies going forward are. They're you can disagree with them, but they're not like illegal the way that the bait and switch thing was. Okay, your thing.
Much shorter. Number one, I'll say the reason I have a Steam account, and to this day, my Steam account starts with PSN.
That's right.
It's because I bought Portal 2 for the PS3. So we're talking about like 2011, I think.
Yeah.
And you got a free Steam version of that game, and all you needed to do is sign up for this thing. So to this day,
so that means you could play together.
Yes. And to this day, my Steam account has a big old capital PSN in the front, and that's fucking great. I think it's funny.
Okay, YouTube, it's your boy back with the screaming headache because the paint has worn off, and this is the one criticism I have with inhaling paint, is that when, like, the buzz dies down, right, what was left in its wake is a crippling headache that it also makes me feel hungry, which is, I don't know how that works because my tummy is where food goes and my brain is where the laser discs go. So that's not really for me to decide. That's probably for like a doctor to like help me figure all this stuff out, but I'm not quite there yet. Once again, I'm here providing Laserdisc reviews in theory only because I don't have really anything of material value to my person. What I have is this wonderful Leapfrog camera that I found in the trash, and I have my imagination. So with all that being said, and hopefully this is all working out. I haven't quite figured out what library I'm going to take this footage, so I'm just assuming this is working out well, and we'll just kind of cross that bridge when we get there. Now, interestingly enough, when I speak of bridges, I think of a place where I can get a good night's rest, and I can breathe in this paint uninterrupted by mean neighbors or police officers. So when I kind of put all those components together, what I'm left with is then, what's the Laserdisc that I want to next purchase for my collection when I'm back into my home, where I have access to materials and AV equipment, and of course my beloved Laserdisc collection? Well, when I think about what I used to own, I think about Cool as Ice, which I have talked about here on the channel several times. But there's something I may have neglected when talking about Cool as Ice, so I'd like to touch on that now briefly, right? So in the movie Cool as Ice, the best that I can recall is there is no scene where any character is taking spray paint, putting it in a bag, and then putting that bag on their mouth and nose and deeply inhaling it. And if I think back about what I would do if I were to make a sequel to Cool as Ice, the first thing that I would do is, of course, A, name it Cool as Ice 2, Still Chillin', and number 2, I would incorporate a lot more scenes of breathing in paint, because I think what that would do is like make the hip-hop dance scenes have more energy overall, and like that's the one thing that like the energy there is explosive. It explodes off the screen, right? But like imagine if Vanilla had a brain just with Krylon bouncing around in there, and it would make his high energy, high octane performance that much more explosive. So with Cool as Ice 2 Still Chilling, which I will produce one day, and I will press onto Laserdisc if it fucking kills me, that would be the number one thing that I would do. So if you all can imagine with me, here's a copy of Cool as Ice 2 Still Chilling for an unboxing. I will slide it out, and yep, you got it, it's fucking paper. We don't deal with plastic in this universe. We have full control, and it is always paper, it will be paper. Slide that back in. The cover art, as you can see, as I'm gesturing to, is incredible, and Vanilla has his shirt off, and he's got a six-pack, as God very much intended. So, Michael Gross is also going to be in Cool as Ice 2 Still Chilling. I'm pretty sure he's still alive. If not, I can draw him, and I can animate him and put him in the picture, because I think he's a super important figure and father figure to the movie, and he's also evil, but he means the best for his daughter. So if I were to give a review to Cool as Ice 2, it would definitely be 100 million out of 10, obviously, because I directed it. I reopened the factory that presses laser discs, and this laser disc is made of solid fucking gold. So, and it costs only $10. That's the other thing too, is in this fantasy, my laser discs are gold, and they all cost $10 for you, the fam. And that's entirely what's important to me, is to make sure that my vision is your vision, the Laserdisc family and community, whoop whoop. So, that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for following along on my journey. At some point, I'm going to need to get new batteries for my Leapfrog camera so I can continue giving you these ideas and thoughts about Laserdiscs and also family.
The other thing I'll say, and it's about the account sign-up stuff. So you, me, and the good Prince, we all recently started playing Diablo 4 together.
And a good time is being
had.
A
really good time. And I have to eat a little bit of crow. Well, I mean, yes, some crow needs to be eaten because I talk a lot of shit on Blizzard because I think they deserve it because they're bad. But I've always had nice things to say about Diablo, but I've got really nice things to say about Diablo 4, which I just found out the other day is developed by Vicarious Visions. Like, has nothing to do with Blizzard.
Wait, what? No,
yeah.
That cannot be.
Oh, yeah. Vicarious Visions handled the Diablo 2 remaster thing, and they were so happy with it that they said, hey, why don't you just go ahead and make Diablo 4? And they're like, well, okay. And that's where we are. So
I feel like I should know that.
Blizzard didn't even make that game. Their name is on it.
Blizzard has to own Vicarious Visions.
So well, of course, yes. Vicarious Vision is wholly owned by Activision and now Microsoft. But yes, but when you think of Diablo, you think of in-house Blizzard. But no, it's the fine people that made Tony Hawk on Game Boy Advance that made that game. That's high compliment, because if anyone who's played Tony Hawk on Game Boy Advance knows that's a fucking fantastic video game. So anyway, double kudos to Vicarious Visions. But anyway, when we all three of us got in to start playing that game, I'm playing on Xbox, Danny's playing on Xbox, and I think you're playing on PC. So going in, I was just thinking, oh yeah, Xbox and PC, they're the same thing. They talk to each other. Yeah. And so like we made our plans, and we have to do this because we're all parents and we all work. So we had to like make our plans to go and like play this game together. And the second we do that, it's just like, hey, nothing works, and you've got to sign up for this bullshit. And like, so I usually don't care because quite honestly, this is not a part of my life. Like I don't do the only thing I use on PC, and it's not even on PC. I use Steam on my Steam Deck, which is a console. So I it's just not my world, and so like I'm never really exposed to this stuff. But then when I am, in the case of Diablo 4, I'm just like, this is so. I hate this shit so much. And the fact,
I feel you became getting
just seething because
and
like,
it happens all the time between you and I.
Yes,
we've on at least 3 occasions we have tried to link up online something.
Yes,
we had a problem with Nintendo.
Yep.
We had a problem with Xbox. Now we had a problem with PC and Blizzard.
And it's always the same thing. It's just these unnecessary hoops that just make. You know what? I'm gonna play NBA Jam again because I can turn that on and I'm dunking, baby. It's as simple as that. But so that complaint, it's not lost on me because even though it's very much not a part of my life as it is yours and other PC specific gamers, like I do encounter it every once in a while, and I hate it just as much because it is a stupid, unnecessary barrier that stands in the way between you and having a fucking great time with your friends.
So there's a sort of a related complaint to this, which is that one of the bugs in the game, bugs is in technical difficulties, is that you can have trouble with crossplay sometimes. And the way it works is you get some kind of code and you give it to somebody else and they type it in, and then that's how you link up to become friends through crossplay. But sometimes the PlayStation players cannot see the PC players. And so you're trying to like, hey, I'll invite you to come play with me. And you're like talking to them. And they're like, oh, you're not online. I can't see you. What's going on here? Or they'll try to join your ship so you can go on missions together. And then they won't be able to actually do that. They'll get some kind of error. Yeah. And I've almost never had problems like that on PC because all this was figured out basically 25 years ago. But specifically crossplay between the ecosystems, between PlayStation and PC, there are problems. Now as the game gets more sophisticated, the problems are less and less in that way. But for certainly a while, there were there were issues.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Get into it now, baby. It's time to talk about why Helldivers 2 is so good.
This game is the best multiplayer game that I have played since the Halcyon heyday of World of Warcraft. And that is the highest praise that I can give to a multiplayer experience, because World of Warcraft, as we'll talk about at some point on this show, is my favorite game of all time. So I've never had since then a more just totally engaging, absolutely fun, viral moments on every mission, just hoot galore.
Can I jump in here real quick?
I didn't even finish the
I know,
sentence.
but it's important that I get this out now. The reason why you feel this way is because you didn't give us the time we deserved for Monster Hunter. And that's 100% on you.
That's true.
That's your sin. That is your cross to bear.
Yeah.
But
you remember what I was playing instead of?
Yeah, you were whining about how much you hate Uncharted, and yet you sat there and played it on the hardest difficulty to get a platinum. And then I was like, "But why do you do this to yourself?" And then you're like, "Don't gatekeep me. I want to play games the way I want to play." And then meanwhile, me and Danny were like, "We're having the best time we've ever had with a game ever." And by the way, it's COVID. And see you later, pal. And then 400 hours later, here we are. But go ahead, Helldivers 2.
I'm not sure if that's exactly how it went.
It's exactly how it went. It's 100% how it went.
Oh, man. When I get home tonight, I'm sending you a picture of my platinum trophy on Uncharted, just so you can see. It was totally worth it.
I bet it was.
Okay.
Okay.
I was in the middle of a sentence.
I did the right thing.
The best multiplayer experience that I have had and could have possibly ever had in any game ever since World of Warcraft is this Helldivers.
Monster Hunter.
The game. So first of all, the game it's PvE, which seems to me, based on with my competitive instincts, like it would be less fun than PvP. But the aesthetic of the game and the narrative of the game is basically Starship Troopers, the video game.
Yeah.
So everyone out there is watching, go watch the trailer for Starship Troopers 1997. So you get some eye candy from Denise Richards in there, and just one of Jake Busey's finest performances. I mean,
if not the tippy top.
If not the tippy top.
And I'll put Doogie in there too. It's Neil Patrick Harris sings in that movie.
He's never been better.
He's never been better. Well, Doogie.
Then dressed up as a Nazi.
Yeah. That's right. Alien Nazi.
Alien Nazi.
Yeah.
Well, human Nazi fighting it.
That's right.
So look, that movie, Starship Troopers, is a satire on, I guess, Nazism.
Yeah.
And fascism. Yeah. Okay, and so the video game has completely embraced that aesthetic. And there's 101 jokes about managed democracy and about like everything that you do is for freedom, and it's all very tongue-in-cheek and is just chef's kiss executed to perfection. As I joked with some of my friends, fascism has never been more fun. You can go ahead and clip that. It is just a spectacular experience. And when you're playing it with your friends, there's an inherent tension to each level. You're trying to like sort of kill the bugs and complete the mission. It's funny, while it's also like the gameplay loop is super fun. There's sort of a live service element to it, so you're upgrading your ship at the same time. It's the first chance that I've had to play a game with the producer of the show jointly for 20 years, probably, since we've been able to play together.
Since a Diablo game, right? This was the last time you guys played multiplayer.
We didn't even play Diablo together. Okay. I mean, you got to really go back to like Age of Empires stuff, Age of Empires 2. I mean, it's...
Did you play Counter-Strike? Were you ever into Counter-Strike?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. And not like how Chris was into Counter-Strike.
No.
Okay.
In those early days, Chris showed it to me. I played it with him, and it was the LAN party staple. So in fact, I remember the first time he was like, "Yeah, there's a new game he was playing called Counter-Strike." I was like, "Cool, like where do I go buy it?" He said, "No, you don't buy it. What you do is you buy Half-Life, and then you download the stuff." And I was like, "What the hell?"
When he showed it to me back then too, it blew my mind. I couldn't even wrap my head around it.
Why do I have to buy Half-Life to play this other game?
It's not the same name, Chris. Yeah. The name is different.
Yeah, 1998 was a wild time, man.
It really was.
So I did play Counter, but so from then until now, we haven't been able to play. But now we're able to play this, and it's great. I get to play with my brother. We're having fun. We're killing bugs. We're embracing satire and enjoying it. My sister's coming in and chiming in. It is just so much fun. So much fun, in fact, that on Discord, we'll have a revolving group of 5 or 6 of us that are playing together at any one time. You can only have 4 people in a squad playing in a game at one time. But the 2 people who can't get in are really not missing out on anything, because one of us will just stream our broadcast on Discord, and it's just as fun to watch that game get played.
That is to play it.
Yeah, because of all the zany hijinks that happen and everything else. We had one guy who was in our chat who's said, I'm going to cancel my cable subscription to just watch you guys play this, because
this is what's going to get him to cancel his cable subscription.
Right. Yeah, because it's just that entertaining. So that part of it is great. I was so into this game that this is the level of commitment. I went on a, this is so like bougie to say, I went on a ski trip to Utah, and in February for President's Day weekend, and I brought my Steam Deck, and we get there, and the Wi-Fi was supposed to not work. It doesn't work, so it's like, okay, but I'm still getting 5G. So I'm trying to play the game. This is in February, just a couple weeks after it came out, on my Steam Deck, but it hadn't really been optimized then, and it's a fairly tech-intensive game. Yeah. So it's just killing my Steam Deck. Like it's heating up. Right. My Steam Deck cannot handle, it's overheating basically from this game. So I did this just brilliant move, and there's a picture of this that exists. Because we're in the snow, I put the Steam Deck on a chair, put the chair on a balcony in a freezing cold temperature.
You use nature to cool your computer down.
Close the slider. So I'm sitting inside in the kitchen, staring through the slider at the screen of the Steam Deck.
That's so cool.
That's in the snow.
You're like a dog looking at a bunny running out in the yard.
Holding my controller. Okay, guys, let's do this. Ready to drop in for freedom, fellas. Yep. And then it ended up not working. So I do that whole elaborate setup. My wife is like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yep. That's the right answer. That's the right answer.
And then as it turns out, because their servers were so overloaded at the time, it wasn't even my fault.
Wouldn't even matter.
I couldn't play because of their nonsense.
So describe. We haven't done this yet. Pitch me the gameplay loop.
Sure.
Like, describe how that all works and give me some analogs. What games can you drag out of the old treasure chest that this feels like?
Yeah, good question. Okay, so it's a third-person shooter. It feels at times like a first-person shooter, but it's a third-person shooter. You equip your character. You're launched into a planet via this sort of epic intro through a hell pod, thus the name Helldivers. You land on the planet, and you're looking for, there's an objective that everybody participates in, a PvE objective. Go capture this location, go rescue these people, whatever it is.
And is that randomized every game?
Yes. Okay. Semi-randomized. You pick the mission objective before you actually load into the mission, but there's like a selection of like 10 different objectives that you could choose just depending on what you feel like.
Right.
So you land, and then depending on the difficulty that you play under, you're besieged by enemies almost right away. And most of the gameplay loop is you're running around the map trying to kill the enemies and then do the objective. The objectives can be as long as 40 minutes, as short as 12 minutes. So whatever you're in the mood for, there's a gameplay style for you. And then as you're killing the enemies and completing the objective, there are also items that you can acquire across the map, where if you complete the mission without dying, or without dying too many times, and you're able to extract to leave safely, then you can use those items to upgrade your ship, and that's sort of the meta progression, the live service part of it, where it's like you're upgrading yourself over time. So that's really it. You're just running around, you're shooting stuff, you're trying to collect the items, and you're trying to do the mission. And that's it in its most simplistic form. It's a third-person shooter. There's various weapons. One really cool feature of the game that I'm not sure if it exists in other games, but it's a huge part of this game, is that you have, in addition to just having your gun that you show up with and you shoot things with, you have these things that are called stratagems. A stratagem is something that you can actually call down from the battleships that are hovering above your planet as like a support weapon or something that sort of helps you out in the moment. And they're on timers, and you have a limited amount, but you can call in like a like an Alien 2 style mech unit that you can get in and kind of mow down the bugs with rockets and things like that. And it's really cool. Like a drop ship comes in, drops the mech down, you get to board the mech. There's like a laser beam that gets fired from a battleship, and it'll kind of kill all the enemies in an area.
Okay, love that.
Yeah, so there's really cool stratagems, and there's probably 30 or 40 of them that sort of help you throughout the map. And the gimmick with the stratagems, though, is that you have to hold down the control key and press a number sequence, or an arrow sequence, arrow pad sequence, to call the stratagem down. So it might be like up, down, left, right, down, or whatever.
So cheat code?
It's not Konami.
No, just a cheat code in general.
It's very like a cheat code.
Okay.
And it's weird that like instinctively I almost went to the Konami code.
Well, it's the most famous code.
From it, yeah.
I would have gone ABAC, ABB,
Right.
of course, the blood code from Mortal Kombat 1, but look, we're different people, Robbie. We're just different people sometimes.
So when you're in the middle of a firefight, it can be very stressful to put that in.
Yeah.
Even a code that's as simple as just 5 inputs, it might be up, down, 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 up, left, or something. And it's like, you're like, but you don't have enough time because the enemies are on you. So it's actually really, really cool, and it's a really fun sort of pressure mechanism to force the player to like react to certain things and like to run around. So that's more or less it. That's the entire game, and if I'm underselling it through its simplicity, playing it is actually a different experience.
Here's the deal. Like, I think that it is a misconception amongst, and I'm going to pick on PC gamers here. Like, to me, like a lot of PC gamers have this idea of like a game isn't really good unless there's like all these systems and subsystems and complexities. But like when you boil video games down to like their purest, basest, most simplest terms, Frogger, Pac-Man, like arcade games that have withstood 50 fucking years of people playing them.
Yeah.
Like gameplay is king. There's a reason why.
So true.
There's a reason why Nintendo is about to surpass the DS and approach the PS2 in Switch sales, is because they, among anyone else, they understand and know this, that like gameplay is the reason why video games exist. And you have all these other layers that have been added on to games over the years with, narrative devices or complex systems and subsystems in other games. But you take all that shit away, if your gameplay isn't there, if that's not like right up there to the TP, and it sounds like to me that Helldivers 2, the gameplay is very much there front and center, then you've got nothing. Like, and that's why. So I again, like this game is in a dark shadow for me. Like I feel, from what you've told me about it, what I know about the game, like it's perfect for me. And the fact that like I haven't started to play this game is stupid, and I'm wasting my time.
You have friends, Brian.
I know, and I have a goddamn PlayStation, so like I can do this.
There's a platinum trophy waiting for you.
Oh God, I could not care less about that trash. Platinum trophies, my friend, is what keeps friends away from Monster Hunter, and I'm not a user. All right, that's not who I am.
All right,
but. Yeah, like I think that one of the reasons why this game is as popular as it is that a lot of people have forgotten how important gameplay is in video games.
Yep.
And when a game comes around that's like this, where it's front and center, it's king, like it just reminds people how important that is.
Okay, this is such a good point, and it's absolutely true. And then let me complement your point by saying a couple other things. One is that you and I have complained at times about people putting too much into video games. The most obvious go-to that we've gone back to a few times is Arkham City compared to Arkham Asylum. You don't need that much. A more narrowly tailored game can be a better overall experience. This is a very narrowly tailored game. Now, 5 years from now, they might keep adding to it and adding to it and adding to it, and who knows?
It's a business. They got to make money.
But for now, it's perfect. The other part of it is that PC gamers especially have very thin skin when it comes to certain things, and they will push back very, very hard on concepts that they don't like. And right now, one that's being pushed back on with live service games especially is microtransactions. And this game does not really have microtransactions. And I want to be careful how I talk about this. It is a live service game. Every month they have added new stuff to the game. Yep. And sometimes the stuff is better than other months or whatever, but you're getting a new batch of things that you can buy. The difference is you can spend real world money, a small amount, like $5 to $10, to get the new stuff. But it is very easy, if you play this game a couple hours a day, to just earn enough in-game currency to buy everything that people are otherwise paying for.
Is it Battle Pass locked? Like, do you have like everyone gets access to whatever upgrades or cosmetics on this one tier, but if you buy a battle pass, then you get the other special stuff, or is it all in one pot?
No, there's so there was an initial bevy of goodies, like 10 pages of goodies that had about 6 items on each page that everybody gets. Then there was what you would consider to be a battle pass, where if you paid $5, you could get 3 pages of goodies. However, if you played in game for about, I'm going to say 2 hours, you could get enough in-game currency to buy that same.
So everyone has
pass.
access to the same goodies, whether they pay real money or not.
That is correct. Okay. And because of that, the game has not seen nearly the kinds of pushback that you see on true Battle Pass games, where you are exclusively locked out of content unless you give them the real money. So you can give real money to sort of speed things along and to save yourself the 2 hours of playing. I've never done it. I've played enough in that game where I own everything that you can own, and I haven't given a dime to it, other than I like the game so much that after I bought it, I paid for some bonus content just to give the developer money. Yeah. And it was like all cosmetic stuff, and I did it at the very beginning. But I didn't really do it because I wanted access to the material. I was just like, this game is so good, literally take my money. Yeah. And since then, as they've released new content, I've just purchased it with the in-game currency that I'm earning from playing.
Because you played so much. Yeah.
So it's not exploitive the way that traditional Battle Pass games are. And the studio, at least, but look, this is sort of the ultimate tragedy of the controversy that we talked about at the beginning of the episode. Until that happened, this studio was receiving as many plaudits as like Larian has been for Baldur's Gate 3 in terms of the quality of the game and the near complete elimination of exploitive nonsense that gamers have reacted against. And everybody was using those two examples of like, see industry, see greedy publishers, you can be a developer, develop a good game, not be exploitive, and then we will come to that game in droves. And that's sort of what this was. Until about a week ago, and then now it's a little shakier. But the game still has my absolute full highest endorsement. Yeah. And as of right now, I haven't played the Final Fantasy game, the Rebirth, that everybody seems to like. But right now, it's the game of the year for me, and we're almost halfway into the year, so it's not too early.
The Birdwalk a little bit on that, like so that game, not enough people are playing it.
Which one?
The Final Fantasy game.
Rebirth, yeah.
Yeah. So
weirdly,
to the point. Well, I don't know about weirdly. Like, and this is a bit of a birdwalk, but whatever. So Final Fantasy VII, beloved, no question about that. Right. The remake is done in multiple parts. All right, that's a little Sonic and Knucklesy. Like, it's a little exploitive. Yeah, that's fine. But it, look, it's the nature of the beast. Like, everyone needs to make money. These budgets are completely fucking out of control. So Square Enix thinks that it's a layup, that's going to be like their big tentpole release. And I mean, it's it's not like it's selling like 15,000 copies or something, but it's drastically underperforming what they thought it would. Correct. To the point now where, and this is, I am so proud. I'm so proud of Square Enix to doing this, and I hope more developers do this. But they've gone on record and publicly said, like, hey, look, like, this shit's out of control. Like, the amount of money we spend to make these games, we're not seeing the returns in order to make this make sense financially. So we are dialing shit back. They've canceled projects that were in the coffers, and they're focusing on making more inexpensive games so that they can release product. Yeah. And, like, yes, finally someone is doing what needs to be done. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I know people love Final Fantasy VII, and they were looking forward to this stuff. But breaking up that game into effectively, not talking DLC, that's $140 worth of game that you're going to have to buy in order to get your full complete story when it's a fucking remake. Like, Final Fantasy VII has been around for years. And by the way, never beaten it because I don't give a shit because it's not my Final Fantasy. But for those that love that kind of thing, like, this is what you get. And the fact that Square is realizing, like, this business doesn't make any sense. Like, that to me is like a light at the end of the tunnel. Now, it's probably being done like in bad ways, and people are losing their jobs and all that other shit, and that does suck, of course. But like, the industry needs to correct their course.
Yeah. Well, in Square Enix, they've taken several hits because Final Fantasy 16 did not sell as well as they were hoping, or review as well as they had hoped either. But this Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is getting really good reviews. It's like a 93 average, I think, on Metacritic, and there was a lot of hype kind of behind it because it's that same universe. But you're right, it just did not sell well. So if you're Square Enix and you're like, well, even when we put out a game that seems to be beloved by everyone in a universe as part of a franchise as widely known and widely liked, you're not buying that.
Yeah.
So it's like there's no reason for us to put another $100 million into a project. We'll just scale everything
So
down.
Square Enix released a game called Live Alive. It came out on the Switch, and I think they've since ported it out to PC and PlayStation. PC for sure, but I'm unsure about PlayStation. But it's on Switch. It was a super heavily fan-requested remake of a Super Famicom exclusive role-playing game that's genuinely interesting and unique. Like you play scenarios based on 7 unique different characters. One of them is a fucking MMA fighter. One of them is like Old West cowboy. Each one of these is like a little story in like this nice little capsule. And it's done in that 2.5D pixel art thing that started with Octopath Traveler. There's no way that game costs that much money. It's fucking phenomenal. It sold for what it is very well. They recouped their money instantly. So here's an idea, and this is specifically for Square Enix.
You're giving them free advice right now?
Oh yeah, I'm off the clock too.
Right.
So
Square, if you're out there, just pay attention.
here's a little piece of gold for you. You know what people like me love? Your 16-bit RPGs. You know when you make games that do that, like this Live Alive remake that came out, I bought the fuck out of it, and all my dork friends bought it too. Why don't you make those games and get away from this action bullshit fake RPG fucking garbage and make good games that are cheap, so that even if you sell 100,000 of these, you'll still see a profit. Imagine that. Imagine profiting off of making video games. It used to be what they all did. So if we can navigate the ship back to those waters.
To those waters. Yeah.
Okay. Soapbox removed, but anyway, I'm glad a major company is finally seeing the light.
So that's all for our Square Enix episode of
Helldivers 2.
Yeah.
Okay, closing thoughts on this game. I'll get mine out of the way quickly because I haven't played the game. Yeah. I should probably play this game. And go ahead.
My closing thoughts are we are recording this in May, the month of May, and that's almost halfway into the year. And right now, it is, in my opinion, the game of the year. Right now. Still a lot of time to go. My actual prediction for the game of the year is coming out in 2 weeks. That would be Hellblade 2. So it might not be at the end of the year, but as of right now, almost halfway into the year, it's so good. It is the game of the year for me for this moment. It is especially good if you have friends. If you're watching this show and you have friends, buy that game, have some friends, get on Discord, get on comms, get some kind of recording capture device, or just go online and look up YouTube videos of the crazy crap that happens in this game, and you will have a very good time. That is a guarantee from me. You will love this game. You'll have a great time. You'll play it for hours and hours and hours. Your kids can play it too. I just bought it on PlayStation 5 for my kid to play so that he can play it with me. It is just a fantastic experience that I cannot say enough good things about. And I will happily link my PSN account to the game if I have to at some point. But for now, I don't have to, and that's really cool. So I will just keep playing it and keep just having the time of my life doing so. So Helldivers 2, thank you, Brian. It has been a pleasure as always, and that game is great.
You've heard it here, folks. That's a Uncle Bob guarantee, and those things have a lot of weight behind them.
Yes, they shall. Never missed.
So you're gonna miss with Hellblade 2, but we'll get there. We'll get there when we get there. So like and subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Give us suggestions for episodes. Check us out. We're also on Spotify. Thank you so much for watching, and tune in to another episode of Midlife Krisis.
All right.